Now we have Senator Scott Frantz, who truly is a newly elected state senator. He never held political office before. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Senator.
So I got to ask, why did you decide to go into politics?
Well, it goes back about 15 years ago when I received a phone call in my office from then Governor Lowell Weicker. And Lowell Weicker said, "You don't know it, but you're joining a board called the CDA." And before I could ask him what CDA stood for, he hung up the telephone. And I looked it up. We didn't have the internet back then. But I looked it up and found out that it meant the Connecticut Development Authority, which is essentially the economic development bank of the state of Connecticut. It's a quasi-public, et cetera. And the meeting was the next day, didn't know where it was, made a few phone calls, went up there, and immersed myself in the whole issue of economic development here in Connecticut, learned all about that, and by virtue of that experience, got to know state government reasonably well because you're asked to go testify and you're asked to go to forums and things like that and have discussions with various members of the General Assembly. And one thing led to another, and then eventually got involved with Bradley International Airport as a result of a study that was done in 1999 to 2000, about 2000. And the conclusions of that study were that the airport needed a board of directors to bring more private sector thinking to the governance end of the airport and management end of the airport. And lo and behold, I was chosen again to be the chairman. I really didn't have the time to do it, but I did. And again, it was another wonderful experience to get to know a different aspect of state government, mainly through the transportation end of things. And it was fascinating and wonderful. And then when Senator Bill Nickerson, the great Bill Nickerson, decided to retire after 18 years in this institution, I received numerous phone calls that I should think about it.
Well, you know, you're doing a great job. And I got to tell you, your experience on both those two boards, first of all, in terms of volunteering for the state of Connecticut, has meant a lot. Bradley Airport, in the last 5 or 6 years, has really grown and has become a true hub here in the state of Connecticut. And it's people like you who put their time and effort into it. And that takes a lot of time out of your day to do that. There's a lot of meetings you have to go to, a lot of groups you have to meet with. Now, being a state senator, are you able to still participate in the Bradley Airport Board, or do you have to relieve of those duties?
Yeah, thank you for those very kind words. And the answer to the question is technically no. I cannot really participate at the governance level at either of these two bodies, but I can sure participate in conversations and meetings and continue the relationship that I have with so many different people at CDA as well as at the airport, who really is. And we had a dinner last night, a sort of a farewell dinner. And I told them, you know, with no reservation, they really feel like family. So the incentive to stay in touch with them, they're not far from here, 15 minutes north and about 10 minutes south. I will stay in touch with them on a regular basis.
And how are you finding your experience here in the Senate? Now you're elected, sitting in the chair. Is it what you expected? Is it not what you expected? More time than you expected?
It's I expected it to be an 18-hour-a-day job, 6 days a week. So there's no great surprise there. And I know that it's a pretty choppy schedule. Sometimes you have weeks that are just unbelievably intense and long. Other times in the beginning of the session, you may not have 18 hours a day work to do. But I've cleared the calendar. I'm ready for just about anything. And I think that was probably a good move because of the budget circumstances that we face. Now, when I made the decision to run back in February, say just about a year ago, no one had any idea how bad the numbers were going to be. We in the private sector, you knew this, and anybody working in a business knew that there were some structural problems out there. And it was just a question of when they were going to rear their ugly head in the overall economy and in the financial markets. And we had no idea that it was going to take place, September, October of 2008. And here we are in the thick of it. Having just heard the governor's budget address, I think, which was a terrific step in the right direction, bold step in the right direction to dealing with their fiscal problems that are the result of this economic and financial market meltdown. But I had no idea it was going to be this bad. And looking at close to $10 billion of deficits over the next 2 years and 3 months or so, it's a little frightening. There's no question about it. We know we're in for a lot of late nights. I'm not sure this session will end before the next one starts, but it's going to be a challenge. I like challenges, and you've set a terrific example in bringing what you bring to this body, your leadership within the caucus, and just your wonderful friendly nature is something that's been very much appreciated here as well as throughout the entire caucus.
I thank you for that. But I got to tell you, you said back when they were talking about $4 or $5 billion deficit, you said to me, I would not be surprised if we were at $8 or $10 billion, but by the time it's done, and you're right on the money. Unfortunately, you were absolutely correct. Well, you know, what you bring, your experience, and you're a very successful business person, and I think that's the kind of expertise we need in this legislature, especially in this budget year. We need someone who's going to look at it and make sense out of the mess that we're in, and I do appreciate all that you've done for the caucus and your experience with the state of Connecticut.